Hello, and welcome to the Smart Injury Doctors Podcast, the injury market's top program for doctors, lawyers, and insurers who want to gain greater insight on how to improve patient recovery results and deliver better services in the U.S. injury market. Please welcome your host, Dr. Jeffrey Allen Kronk.
Okay, doctors, today what I want to talk about is how to spend your 60,000 hours. Now, it's hopefully it's catchy to you. Hopefully it's something where you go, what the hell is Dr. Kronk talking about? Well, if you think about it, if you're going to be in private practice for 30 years and you spend 2,000 hours a year, that's 20,000 for every 10 years. Now, if you're like me, I spent more like 3,000 hours a year, 3,500 hours a year. So my numbers would be even higher. My number in 10 years would be 30,000. In 30 years, it'd be 90,000 hours. But just to be conservative, let's take 2,000 hours a year for 30 years. Now, some of you are going to be in different states of practice. You're just starting out. You're midway through your career. You're toward the end of your career. So you can modify this as you go. But I wish as a young practitioner, somebody would have said this to me. Look, you're going to spend 60,000 hours doing this, doing something. And for that, you're going to create whatever you want to create, whatever kind of practice you want to create. So one of the epiphanies for me was the personal injury side was the most lucrative side of my practice. It's also the most purpose-driven, and it also was my favorite part because I was not a pure PI practice, right? So for those of you that don't know me, in 1988, I graduated from school. I went out and worked with a guy that I played rugby with. I was on a rugby scholarship at Palmer, had a full ride at Palmer, and a guy that I played with was working for a doctor as an associate in Seattle, and they needed some help because the doctor was going away on a fishing trip. So I said, great. I moved out I went out to Washington State, and I stayed on his floor for, I think, 6 weeks to 3 months. I don't remember how long it was. It was a while. And I just, I had a sleeping bag, and I was on his floor. And that was what I did. I was an associate doctor. And in those days, you couldn't just go out and get your license. You had to wait. I think it took me 6 months before the state of Washington actually even delivered a license. So it took me a while to get the license. I think it was 3 months, and then I had to wait 3 months or something like that. And I got it, but it took a while, right? So I was in this clinic. It was in the 80s. Everything was paid for, and I wasn't understanding some things about it. It's very high, intense volume, 400 to 500 people on a 4.5-day work week. And I spent a lot of time in the malls screening for new patients using SAM machines and balance scales. And so that was my life. And I thought, geez, I started to become a flat ball bearing in the operation because I kept asking questions. Hey, why are we doing a reeval? Why isn't this person getting better? And so, I didn't realize and understand at that point, everything was paid. This thing was just a gold mine. Right? Patients didn't have deductibles. You could waive them. They didn't have copays. You could waive them. If they had a deductible, it was $50. If they had a copay, it was $5. Right? So in those days, you could waive it all. So, and everything got covered. So anyway, I set out in my own practice. And for the first 2 years, I starved. An osteopath had died, left the building, left his practice, had an x-ray machine in it, had tables in it. His mother, who was very old, actually just closed the doors, owned the building, and I got a chance to look at it, said this is going to work great. There was a dental office in the front. We turned that into an apartment. I lived in the apartment in the front and practiced in the office space in the back. It was about 1,500 square feet, and the front of the building that we lived in was about probably 750 square feet. So that's what I did. I made $5,000 my first year. I made $20,000 my second year. I was starving, right? Hired a consultant. At that time, I paid $12,500 to get help. Today, that's like $25,000. And I learned over the next 3 years to really sell chiropractic and to really simplify it. And I got great results, and I was really, really busy, busier than I ever thought I would be. And I was making more money than I ever dreamed of. But I was also working 60 to 70 hours a week on a on a treadmill that I couldn't get off. I mean, it was a jail. I couldn't leave it if I left it. Man, if I left it for a week, people wouldn't come in. They came to see me. So I was the brand. And like 3 years into this, I was like, wow, I'm making great money, but I just don't have a life. And I started to think, I'm doing well enough that I can start to decide what kind of patients do I like to treat. And what I liked treating were injury patients. Now, the reason why I liked treating injury patients, we were very good. I was doing some biomechanical work at the time, and we were very good with treatment. And I knew that injured patients had a very high probability of long-term residual complaints. So it was like, they should come to us. They should come to see me. So I started to gear it toward, I didn't like Medicare. I like older people. I just didn't like Medicare. I didn't like the later stage treating the spine. I liked it early on. I liked the fact that with personal injury, I didn't have any, there was no, money. I didn't have to talk money with patients. I didn't have to set them up on some sort of a payment plan, or if their insurance didn't cover it, how much, here's the finances, here's what it's going to cost. I didn't have to do any of that. All I had to do was treat the patient and get great results. And that's what I did. Now, what I learned came with that was plaintiff attorneys and defense attorneys and insurers and IMEs and documentation, all kinds of stuff like that. But that stuff is actually pretty simple. That was not complicated, right? So I went through that. Same today. It's not complicated. As a matter of fact, the simpler you make it, the more powerful it is. But what I'm saying is that I learned at that point that the personal injury practice, I'd sit there and say, God, for every 5 insurance patients, I need 1 personal injury patient, right? So if you take a look at 5, you have 40 personal injury patients or 200 insurance patients. So if there's 200 insurance patients, I need to do 200 exams, 200 re-exams, 200 financial consults, just on and on and on. And so I looked and said, well, gosh, I would prefer to fill my clinic with more injury patients, and not for my numbers to go down, my numbers to stay the same, but to replace that patient. Now, I also started to think long term, what kind of practice do I want to have? And that's where, when I say 60,000 hours, you're going to spend 60,000 hours building either your practice or somebody else's practice, maintaining it, thinking about it, marketing for it, problems associated with it, insurance contracts, insurance reimbursement changes, Medicare changes. Am I in Medicare? Am I out of Medicare? Attorneys, good. Are they paying me? Are they not? You're going to have a lot of independent practitioner problems. Those aren't going to go away. Matter of fact, you want more problems, but you want the right kind of problems. Okay, God, I made so much money this year. How do I get rid of some of this money into a way that allows me to avoid tax, not evade it, avoid it. There's highways that have a toll booth, and then there's highways that don't have a toll booth. You cannot go through a highway that has a toll booth and not pay the toll. That's called tax evasion. But you can choose highways that don't have a toll. That's called tax avoidance, right? So I learned all of that. But what I learned is that my income in my clinic could significantly increase as my personal injury side of my practice increased. So if you're sitting there today and nobody's told you, hey, you're going to spend 60,000 hours. Now, the other thing I noticed, so I had an associate at the time, and what I noticed with my injury patients, no problem with the associate treating them. With my insurance or cash patients, they all wanted me. I always had a problem switching them over. So I realized with insurance and cash, I was the brand. On the injury side, the clinic was the brand. And when the clinic becomes the brand, you get freedom. You get freedom, right? So the injury side had only pluses to it. So anybody that's out there today and you're going to spend 60,000 hours, I'm going to tell you, you want to build the injury side. You have these vehicles in your practice. Medicare is a vehicle. Cash is a vehicle. Insurance is a vehicle. Work comp injuries is a vehicle. Personal injury, auto injuries is a vehicle, right? But some vehicles are better than others. If you want to build a tremendously profitable Medicare practice, it's not as easy, right? You got to do a lot more numbers, or insurance, a lot more numbers, right? Whereas on the injury side, now you remember the injury side, when I say it's purpose driven, 55% of the people who have an injury or more, 55% or more, are never going to fully recover, right? That's because they're with the wrong providers. I mean, I could go into medical treatment. I could go in. The British Medical Journal just came out this year with the guidelines for pain management injections. Go out and read them. Look how effective they are, or how ineffective they are. How effective are you? If I'm talking to you, probably effective, right? If you're a doctor of chiropractic and you understand injuries, you're going to be very effective. Now, can you get more effective? Yeah. In order to get more effective, you got to know what the injuries look like. You got to know how to work them up. Got to know them cold. Got to know what, how to determine if the injury was caused by the accident or not. Got to be able to differentiate between pre-existing conditions and not. You got to know that every single patient has a pre-existing condition. There's things that you have to learn, but they're not that hard to learn. And it's a much more lucrative practice. So if I'm sitting there, plus, if I'm going to spend 60,000 hours, guess what? I'm going to learn how to communicate with patients so the patients actually refer patients to me. So while I'm in there doing this, what I do for 60,000 hours, I'm going to make that 60,000 hours even better and more efficient and more effective, so I don't have to spend as much time outside of that 60,000 hours. I don't have to spend 70,000 or 80,000 or 90,000 because I'm inefficient at developing referrals from within my practice, especially on the injury side. That's one of the places where doctors, it's the easiest, yet it's the hardest place to actually improve. It's the easiest if you'll just do it. It's the hardest in the fact that you don't know what to do. So if you have a system that shows you what to do and you do it, it's not hard. That's what we do at the Smart Injury Doctors program. Right? So with my Smart Injury Doctors program, we're helping doctors look at and say, well, look, I've already been practicing for 10,000 hours. That's great. But now I want to start to direct, or it could be 1,000, or it could be 20,000, or it could be 40,000. Doesn't matter where you are. Now I want to start to direct more into higher efficient and much more lucrative aspect of my practice, and I want to build a practice where my practice is the brand, I'm not the brand, so I have flexibility with options, right? What I notice is when you make more money, you can pay more money, and when you can pay more money, you can attract good people, and more importantly, you can keep those people. So when people say to me, when doctors say to me, I have a hard time keeping people, well, it's because you're not paying them enough. If they can't afford to leave, they won't leave, right? Now, they should also be purpose-driven, but you want your practice to be very lucrative. The most lucrative vehicle in your practice is and always will be personal injury. So, doctors, if you're interested in our Smart Injury Doctors program, we sell inexpensive courses on topics that help you out to get a feel for what we do and what we are. And we also have a Smart Injury Doctors Practice Building Success System. If you want to find out more about that, you go out to our website, www.smartinjurydoctors.com, and check us out. If you want to ever get on my schedule, you contact the contact information on that site, and you can get on my schedule, and I'll explain anything you want to. Doctors on these podcasts, short, sweet, to the point. Hope it's something that communicates and aligns with how you think. But I want you to think, if you're going to spend 60,000 hours, you should have what you're doing be really efficient, and it should produce a lot of income for you. And that's what I know how to teach doctors to do. So, doctors, thank you very much for your time. I look forward to giving some more content on the next podcast.
You've been listening to the Smart Injury Doctors Podcast, the #1 audio production show for professionals in the U.S. injury market that want to deliver better injury services to the patients, clients, or insureds they serve. If you like what you heard today, please leave us a review and don't forget to join us on our next program.